close your eyes and imagine the stillness that wraps the world just moments before the first light of dawn. There's a silence so dense, so absolute, that it feels almost sacred, as if the universe itself is holding its breath. No bird song, no movement, just a vast, mysterious pause, like a veil suspended between night and day. This is the space where the soul whispers the loudest, and yet very few, only 0.1%, are truly listening. But why? Because most are still asleep, not just in body, but in spirit. Because this silence, this pre-dawn moment, isn't just a time on the clock, it's a sacred threshold, a hidden portal between worlds. It's where the universe speaks in its purest language, vibration, presence, energy, and only those who've been cracked open by life, those who've knelt in their own darkness, those who've questioned everything in the midnight of the soul, only they begin to hear what this silence is really saying. Maybe that's you. Maybe you've reached a point where you can no longer fake the smile, the certainty, the sense of control. Maybe you've felt abandoned, lost, like the meaning has drained out of your days drop by drop, like your prayers echo back at you unanswered. But what if the pain you carry is not a punishment, but a preparation? What if the ache you feel is not a void, but a womb? What if this moment, this silent, obscure, sacred moment, is the very edge of your awakening? In quantum physics, there's a concept called the vacuum potential, the seemingly empty space that is, in fact, teeming with invisible possibilities. In neuroscience, there's something called neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to rewire itself, often triggered by deep emotional rupture. And in the soul's language, this is called the calling, not a calling to do more, not to be more, but to return, to remember what you are when all the roles, achievements, fears, and expectations dissolve, to recognize that the void is alive, that the silence before dawn is not empty. It's full of codes, full of light, full of sacred instructions, but only for those who are finally quiet enough to hear. This video is not just information. It's a transmission, a frequency. And if you stay with me until the end, not just with your ears, but with your presence, something inside you will shift, not because of my words, but because your soul is already ready. So listen carefully, because what comes before dawn isn't darkness, it's gestation. It's the final contraction before rebirth. And now, let us step deeper into the mystery together. What if I told you that the pain you are feeling right now, the confusion, the weight, the grief, is not a mistake? What if it's exactly what is supposed to be happening? In almost every sacred tradition, there is a moment always just before enlightenment where the soul is shattered. It's called the dark night. But this isn't poetic metaphor. It's a spiritual mechanism, because before the dawn, there is always darkness, and this darkness isn't just the absence of light. It's a sacred intelligence dismantling everything you thought you were to reveal who you really are. Have you noticed? Most people begin their spiritual journey not in joy, but in crisis. Not through peace, but through collapse. Why? Because the human ego, that tightly woven web of identity, survival, expectations, and stories, must break apart before the soul can breathe freely again. And it hurts. Neuroscientists like Joe Dispenza speak of this as the chemical withdrawal from your old self. Your brain, accustomed to survival emotions like fear, guilt, or sadness, has built neural pathways around those states. Your body has adapted to that emotional chemistry. It's almost addicted to the familiar suffering. So when you try to change, when you start aligning with peace, gratitude, love, your biology resists. It wants to return to the known, even if that known is pain. And this is why the darkness before the dawn feels unbearable, because it's not just emotional, it's neurological, it's chemical, it's energetic. You are dying to who you were, but you haven't yet become who you truly are. You're floating between worlds. This is why ancient mystics called this space the sacred void. It is the womb of becoming, not empty, but fertile with potential, and most people flee from it. They numb it, escape it, suppress it. But the 1%, the ones who truly awaken, they stay, they surrender, because they know before the lotus can bloom, it must root itself in the mud. Before the phoenix rises, it must burn. Let's go deeper. According to Bruce Lipton, author of The Biology of Belief, our subconscious mind is programmed in early childhood with limiting beliefs about worth, safety, love, and power. These programs run our lives, silently dictating what we attract, how we respond, what we believe we deserve. And when we begin to wake up spiritually, those programs fight to stay alive. They whisper things like, "You're not good enough, no one sees you, you're too broken to heal." But those voices, they're not your truth, they're echoes of a past self, a false self, a self that was built to survive, not to thrive. So when you enter this darkness, this holy collapse, you are not being punished. You are being purified. The universe, or God, or consciousness, or whatever name you give to the great mystery, is not abandoning you. It's breaking you open, because only when the armor shatters can the light enter. Only when you are stripped of everything that is not you, you begin to remember. Remember what? That you are not the wound, you are not the fear, you are not the past. You are awareness itself, and that awareness never breaks. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is the great secret. Your pain is not the problem. Your avoidance of it is, because inside that pain is a map, a portal, a frequency designed to return you to your wholeness. Let me ask you, what if the sadness you carry is the soul's way of asking you to slow down and listen? What if the anxiety you feel is not a flaw, but an alarm, signaling you that something in your reality is out of alignment with your true vibration? What if your heartbreak is not a failure, but a sacred tearing, making space for love that is finally real? Can you feel it? This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about facing yourself and trusting that the very process that feels like you're undoing is actually your awakening. You are not lost. You are being rearranged, and soon the dawn will come, but not as an external rescue, not as something outside of you. It will rise from within, just like the sun does not break the night from above, but from beneath the horizon. Your light, your true self, will rise from within your shadows, and you will remember. You were never alone. You were always being led. The pain wasn't the enemy, it was the guide. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of something deeper. It's the dimension where the universe speaks, but it doesn't speak in language. It speaks in patterns, energy, synchronicities, a knowing that bypasses logic and enters the heart directly. And only a few, the 0.1%, ever learn to hear it. Why? Because they have stopped listening only with their ears. They've learned to listen with their being. Let me ask you, have you ever had a moment, perhaps fleeting, where something inside you just knew? You couldn't explain it. You had no proof, but something in your chest, your gut, your soul whispered, "Yes, this is truth." That is the universe speaking. This intelligence is not outside of you. It's not something you need to acquire or study or master. It's something you need to remember because you were born connected to it. In the womb, your body formed without thought. Your heart began to beat before your brain even knew what heartbeat meant. Cells divided, organs emerged, limbs extended, all guided by an unseen, omniscient intelligence. What is that force? Call it consciousness, call it God. call it source. But know this, it never left you, and even now, in your confusion, in your grief, in your doubt, it is working, patiently, precisely, silently. This is what David Bohm, one of the most visionary physicists of our time, called the implicate order, the hidden layer of reality that organizes everything beneath the surface. To the ordinary eye, life seems chaotic, random, fragmented, but to the attuned soul, there is symmetry, rhythm, purpose. Every heartbreak, every delay, every ending, all part of a greater choreography. But to perceive it, you must become quiet enough to feel the thread. The 0.1% are not special. They are simply available. Available to the stillness. Available to wonder. Available to not knowing, and yet trusting anyway. This is not blind faith. It is felt truth. You see, your body is an instrument, finely tuned to the language of vibration. Greg Braden has shown how the heart generates a magnetic field 5,000 times more powerful than the brain. This means your heart is not just a pump, it's an antenna, a receiver of universal intelligence. And when you enter coherence, when your thoughts, emotions, breath, and intention align, you begin to tune into frequencies that were always there, but previously drowned out by mental noise. The whispers of the universe become louder, more frequent, more precise. You start noticing synchronicities, that text you needed arriving just in time, that stranger who says the exact words your soul was longing to hear, that song on the radio that answers the question you didn't even voice. Coincidence? No, it is the code beneath the chaos, the invisible web of connection that only reveals itself to those who pause. You see, the universe is always transmitting, but most are too distracted to receive. Their minds are looping, their emotions are loud, their nervous systems are overstimulated. But when you begin to decelerate, when you choose presence over reaction, when you learn to sit with yourself in sacred silence, you begin to perceive the intelligence that orchestrates the stars, the tides, the breath in your lungs. And more than that, you begin to remember that you are part of it. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are a micro-universe, a fractal of the whole. Just as a wave belongs to the ocean, you belong to this field of infinite wisdom. And this is not just spiritual poetry. Quantum physics has proven that particles can influence each other instantly across vast distances, a phenomenon called quantum entanglement. What does this mean for you? It means that you are entangled with everything, that your thoughts ripple into the field, that your emotions send signals into the matrix of reality, and when you shift your inner state, reality begins to shift with you. But it starts in silence, because the mind cannot solve the puzzle it created. Only the awakened presence, the witness behind the thoughts, can perceive what's real. So what do the 0.1% perceive that others don't? They see meaning where others see randomness. They hear guidance where others hear silence. They trust the process where others resist it, because they know the universe is not punishing you. It is preparing you. It is rearranging people, situations, emotions, timelines to bring you back into alignment. But it must do so quietly, because real wisdom does not shout. It whispers, and it whispers in the space between your thoughts. Let me offer you something simple and powerful. Each morning, before you reach for your phone, before you speak, before you think, place your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and ask, what is the universe trying to tell me right now? In this silence, then wait. Don't try to hear an answer. Just feel. You may receive nothing at first, or you may feel a warmth, an image, a knowing. Trust that. It is the intelligence of the cosmos speaking through you. And in that moment, you become the 0.1%. Not because you've achieved something rare, but because you finally remembered something ancient. That silence is not empty. It is alive. The night has done its work. It has stripped you. It has silenced you. It has shown you everything that was never truly yours. Illusions, identities, attachments. And now the first light begins to stir. But this is not the sunrise outside. It is the awakening within. Because true dawn doesn't begin in the sky. It begins in the soul. The question is, how do you meet this light? How do you reprogram a self that no longer fits the old world? How do you consciously step into a new frequency, one that matches who you were always meant to be? It begins with one truth. Your inner world creates your outer reality. This isn't just philosophy, it's physics. Max Planck, father of quantum theory, once said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." This means what you believe, feel, focus on, moment to moment, shapes the very atoms of your reality. So when the night ends and the veil lifts and you begin to remember, you must become deliberate with your attention, because now you're no longer living from the unconscious past. You're creating from conscious presence. But to do that, you need to reprogram your soul's relationship with three things. 1. Thought. 2. Emotion. 3. Identity. Let's begin with thought. Your brain is not your enemy, but it's been trained for decades to repeat loops of survival. Stories like, "I'm not enough, nothing ever changes, I'm always alone." These aren't facts, they're programs. And like all programs, they can be rewritten. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that when you repeatedly focus on elevated thoughts, ones aligned with love, gratitude, possibility, you begin to form new synaptic connections. The brain literally rewires itself, but the key is emotion. Because a thought without feeling is just noise, but a thought charged with heart becomes a command to the universe. Neville Goddard called this the law of assumption, the practice of feeling the wish fulfilled, not hoping, not begging, but embodying the emotion of already being whole, already being free, already being who you truly are. This is not pretending, it's remembering, because the soul already knows this truth. It's the mind that must be reminded. This brings us to identity. Who are you, really? Not your name, not your job, not your wounds, not even your story. You are awareness. You are the still presence behind every thought, every breath, every emotion. Ramana Maharshi taught a simple but radical practice. Ask yourself, who am I? Not to find an answer, but to dissolve the false ones. Because as long as you identify as the victim, the struggler, the one who's always been abandoned or betrayed, your frequency remains tethered to that narrative. But when you begin to identify as consciousness itself, limitations fall away. So how do we bring all of this together and practice? Here is a simple but profound ritual to begin each day at the threshold of dawn, the morning reprogramming practice. 1. Sacred stillness. Before any external input, no phone, no news, no distractions. Sit in silence. Feel your breath. Place your hand on your heart and simply listen. This is where you tune into the intelligence of the universe. Let your first awareness of the day be inward. 2. Conscious declaration. Speak out loud or within a new identity. For example, I am aligned with divine intelligence. My body is healing. My mind is clear. My soul is awake. I walk in trust. I create with love. I radiate peace. Let the words not just pass through your mouth, but through your being. Feel them. 3. Emotional activation. Recall a memory, real or imagined, where you felt deep gratitude, love, or peace. Sink into that feeling. Let it expand. Visualize this emotion infusing every cell of your body, as if your entire system is being recalibrated to that frequency. 4. Visualization. Now imagine your day, not as a list of tasks, but as a vibration. See yourself moving with grace, responding with calm, receiving unexpected blessings, feeling seen, guided, whole. This isn't about controlling outcomes. It's about setting the tone for how you meet the unknown. If done consistently, this practice begins to overwrite the old blueprint, not instantly, but powerfully, because the universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you vibrate. And vibration begins with inner alignment. Let's be clear. You are not just changing habits. You are resurrecting your essence. You are reclaiming the voice of your intuition. You are honoring the whisper of the dawn. And in doing so, you're no longer living by default. You're living by design. Your design. Your soul's design. This is what it means to awaken from within. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's subtle, sacred, steady, like the sun rising, not with a bang, but with a glow. And suddenly, everything begins to respond differently. You meet the same life, but from a different state. And because you have changed, everything does. Not because reality transformed overnight, but because you aligned with a new timeline. You are now living as the 0.1%. Not in superiority, but in surrender, because you remembered what most forget. The dawn was never coming to you. It was always coming through you. There is a voice that speaks before sunrise. It doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It doesn't beg for your attention. It waits in stillness, in silence, in love. It is the voice that lives beneath your name, beneath your wounds, beneath everything you were taught to be. It is the voice of the universe, and it's always been whispering to you. But to hear it, you had to be broken open. You had to be emptied. You had to lose the noise that once filled your mind and made you believe you were separate, small, forgotten. The journey through darkness, the aching silence, the nights you thought would never end, all of it led here, to this moment, to this breath, to this light now rising from within you. You see, awakening is not an event. It's not a peak or a revelation that arrives with fireworks. Awakening is a soft remembering, a sacred return. It's when the soul, after years or even lifetimes of forgetting, finally turns inward and whispers, "Oh, there you are." And in that moment, everything begins to change. Not because the world is different, but because you are. You begin to see with different eyes. You begin to listen differently. You begin to speak and move and feel as if you're walking with the universe beside you. Because you are. You always were. You just forgot. That's okay. Forgetting is part of the dance. So is falling. So is breaking. So is doubting. But now you remember. And in this remembering, there is no rush. There is only presence. There is only love. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not what the world told you to be, not what pain shaped you into, but who you are when the armor falls away, when the dawn rises, when your soul finally speaks louder than your fear." So let me ask you now, what is awakening inside you at this very moment? What if this quiet pull in your chest, this calm tear in your eye, this sudden breath of peace, is the voice of the universe saying, "I never left you. I was always here, waiting for you to slow down enough to hear me." Maybe you're not lost. Maybe you're being led by something ancient, something infinite, something you can't see but deeply feel. That's the voice before sunrise. It doesn't promise perfection. It doesn't offer certainty. It offers something far more powerful, presence. And from presence, all things become possible. Healing, joy, clarity, creation. So the next time you wake before the world, when the sky is still dark and the air is hushed, place your hand on your heart and listen. not for words, but for truth, because the universe doesn't speak in language. It speaks in vibration, in resonance, in the sacred knowing that you, exactly as you are enough. Not because you've healed everything, not because you've mastered your path, but because you are here, still breathing, still seeking, still opening, and that is everything. So I leave you with this. What if the very pain that brought you here was the invitation back home? What if the darkness wasn't your enemy, but your initiation? What if the voice you've been longing to hear was your own soul finally rising with the dawn?